Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. And today I'm talking about your ex has come back after you've moved on and what do you do when this kind of situation happens. So usually, typically, the best thing to do is to do nothing, or let's say they come back and they say to you, let's reconnect, let's, pick up where we left off. Sometimes the best thing to do in that situation, and most of the time the best thing to do in that situation, is to do nothing or to reject them, right? So let's say, for example, your ex, it depends how your ex has come back. So for example, if your ex has come back in the form of they've just added you on Facebook as a friend, or they've just refollowed you again on Facebook, or added you again on Snapchat, whatever it may be. But when it comes to something like that, the best thing is to do nothing, right? But if they message you, right, sometimes the best thing to do is to reject them, basically, and not to entertain what could be happening here, because it could be the fact that they want to come back, okay? So that's generally most of the time what I would advise people to do nothing or to reject them if they say to you, look, I miss you, let's reconnect. The best thing to do is to reject them and say, look, I'm not interested, I don't think the relationship should be back, I don't think the relationship was great for both of us, and I think like we should both move on, and I'm really sorry, okay? Now, you might want to be like, we can still be friends or something like that if you want to, and if you feel like you can actually be friends with them, but most of the time, it's better to just leave that how it was, just leave it all ended, and don't reconnect with them. But there are, of course, obviously, exceptions to the rule, right? And usually that depends on why you guys broke up, okay? So the only sort of thing I can think of where it's okay to get back with an ex is if there was a genuine misunderstanding happening. And I've been speaking about this a lot on my channel because I think it's really important, and a lot of people come to my channel now because they're trying to get an ex back, or they're trying to make their ex regret dumping them or rejecting them or whatever it may be, right? But usually it's all because they want someone back, typically, right? If the breakup happened because it was a genuine misunderstanding, so for example, let's say they thought that you cheated on them when you didn't, or vice versa, or it could be a third party got involved and was manipulating in some way your ex, and that's what made your ex dump you, or what made the breakup happen because a third party got involved. Let's say it was a jealous ex that started to spread lies about you, or perhaps it was someone that had a crush on your ex, like let's say it was like one of their work colleagues and made up a bunch of lies about you and just basically got in between you because they really wanted to be with them, wanted to be with your ex or something like that. So if it was like a genuine misunderstanding, or where a third party got involved, or it could be something like, maybe their mother didn't approve of you and then they started saying stuff to your ex, saying, oh, you need to break up with them, they're not good for you. And basically, your ex got to a point where they felt like they needed to break up with you because of what someone else was saying, even though it was completely misrepresenting you and the relationship, and they were happy with you anyway. If something like that happens, then sometimes it is okay to get back with your ex, as long as you are happy in that relationship. And I mean genuinely happy, right? Because most of the time when a breakup happens, basically both people are thinking about about breaking up, right? There's a lot of arguments going on. It's really frustrating. You're both upset all the time. There's just always this massive miscommunication. Things are really frustrating, and both of you are thinking about ending it, right? You may not speak about it, you may not say anything about it, but for a while, maybe for like a couple of months or a few weeks, you were both thinking about breaking up with each other, right? But then they maybe got to there first. Maybe they broke up with you before you could get there. Perhaps it was going to take another month of going through this pain for you to have actually stepped in and broke up with them and done something, right? And what happens is the person gets shocked. The person who gets dumped gets shocked, like, oh my God, like it's like what Tony Robbins says, and that is rejection breeds obsession, right? Sometimes we can't really help it. Like if we get broken up with, it hurts our ego. We feel like, oh no, we need to do something, basically, and we start then thinking about the old times when things were really good, and we start focusing on that, which is why we want to get back with the ex, because we keep on thinking about like when we first met and the great sex that was happening, or the great moments. Perhaps there was lots of romantic moments, but we forget to look back on those last couple of months where we were kind of like, oh yeah, maybe we should break up. I'm not really happy. We forget about that feeling. And what genuinely happens if an ex does come back and you get back into a relationship with them, a couple of months down the line, you find yourself in the same situation. You're still angry and upset with each other. It may be great to begin with. You have great makeup sex or whatever it may be. And basically what happens is, like, after a few months, the breakup happens again, and then it happens permanently, right? This is usually what I see happening. This is the common thing that happens usually, right? Because what usually happens with a breakup is basically the people that are together shouldn't have even been together in the first place. Like, perhaps there's too much of they want different things. Their personalities are too different. Their lifestyles are too different, right? I think back on the times when I've broke up with someone. So the two main ones I can think about is one of my first main relationship. And I broke up with her because she cheated on me and because she liked to go out partying all the time. And I didn't really like that lifestyle. I was okay with perhaps partying, because I was in my early 20s. So I didn't mind having a party, right? Everybody likes to have fun sometimes. But, I was, I'm one of those kinds of people that are, especially back then, like I only wanted to do that maybe like once or twice a month. But she was doing it like every weekend. Like, and not just on Friday, but like on Saturday and Sunday too. And maybe even one day during the week, and I just wasn't up for that, and when she would drink, it would be like she would drink to get drunk, like to black out basically, and come home at like 3 a.m. and things like that, and it just didn't work well with my lifestyle. And also she cheated on me, so obviously I wanted to be with someone who was faithful, who was monogamous, okay? So I broke up with her because we had a mismatch in values and things that we wanted to do. We had different lifestyles, which causes most conflict in relationships, okay? Also, there's other things that go into it as well. There's like communication problems and things like that. But genuinely, it's because they're living two completely different lives, and it gets to a point where you're just annoyed by everything they do because they're so different from you, right? And the other time I broke up with someone was when I found out that they were just lying about their entire life, right? I wouldn't even call it really a relationship, but we was like seeing each other exclusively for about like 3 months, right? And she was just lying about everything, and I knew she was lying about different things because she told me a story once. And this is how I definitely knew. She told me a story once, and she was saying, oh yeah, my dad said this, and da 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 da. She was telling me a story about her dad. But then like a week later, she told me the exact same story, but it was now all about, it wasn't about her dad anymore. It was like about a friend of hers. And it's like, well, that you just told me the same story twice, but it's exactly the same story, but the first time it was your dad and now it's your friend. She was just like a pathological liar and just lied about everything. So it just made me really confused, and I was like, I can't be with someone that's like that, right? So, as you can see, like there's when you're with someone that's so different from you, that doesn't have, like, let's say, any integrity, when you do, it just completely, ruins the whole relationship, and you're always arguing. But, when you look back on those relationships, you can see good things. You can see times when it was like really romantic, or the sex was really good, whatever it may be. And we look at that, we look at that instead of looking at, the bad times, okay? So that's where you got to think of, what was it like before you guys broke up? Was it good? Or was it hell on earth, right? So if it was bad, and, it wasn't the exception that I said, where there was just a misunderstanding or a third-party person got involved, right, and ruined things, and, basically was whispering in your ex's ear loads of lies about you, then you shouldn't really be getting back with your ex. Okay, so if your ex comes back and it was, a bad relationship and you had different values, you was kind of thinking about breaking up with them too, but perhaps it was at the back of your mind. It wasn't like completely there, let's say, in your vision right then. Then the breakup happened, and then maybe you started thinking about the good times, and you stopped looking at, the last couple of days. Because, even with me, and I'm someone who's, I dumped those two women myself. I can still look back on those relationships and think, oh yeah, there was some good times in there, right? And I remember doing that when we first broke up, and that's why in my first relationship, I even got back with that girl who cheated on me, right? The one who liked to party a lot, right? Because I was looking at the good times and the fun times, because it was fun sometimes to go out partying and have a good time and let, blow off some steam. And I was looking at that. I wasn't looking at how hurt I felt, which is why I went back once, right? And then it happened again, and that's when it completely ended, right? But as you can see, it didn't last, right? I got back with an ex because I was looking at it with nostalgia, and then it just ended anyway because the behavior didn't change. And guess what? Most people aren't going to change, because I feel like sometimes when we get back with an ex, we're like, oh yeah, they've got so much potential. If they could only just stop those bad habits, maybe I can change them this time around. Maybe things will be different this time around. But guess what? 9 times out of 10, they're not going to change, right? Because most people are not willing to change, right? It's like the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You may have all the best intentions and have all the best tips to help them improve, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to take it on board. So don't feel like you can change them, right? Because most likely you're not going to be able to change them. Only they can change themselves, and most people are just simply not willing to change themselves. Not everyone is like you, right? You're watching a self-help video, essentially. You're watching a how-to video, right? You're probably more likely to and more open to solving your problems, to changing yourself, to improving, which is a very admirable quality, right? But your ex might not be that kind of person. They might just want to stay how they've always been, right? And you have to take that on board, and you have to come from that. You have to basically look at it from that place. You've got to assume, basically, that the person that you're in love with is never going to change, right? So when you start getting into a relationship with someone, start getting romantic with someone, you have to assume that they're always going to be the way that they are, because most likely they are, right? They're not going to change. They're going to, when people get to the age of 25, they say that's when the brain stops developing, and you're a fully grown adult, right? So if you're with someone and they're 25 or over, then you've got to assume they're always going to be that way, because not many people are willing to grow and develop themselves like you. So if you are someone who is willing to grow and change and become better, then you've got to find someone who is also willing to change, to grow and become better. Or you've just got to assume that this is your lot and they're not going to change, and you have to stick with them, right? Because they're not going to change, right? You have to assume that the person you're with is always going to be how they are. You can't see their potential, because their potential doesn't mean anything. Humans are, there's a good quote, and it says that what humans can do is, extraordinary, but what they will do is usually disappointing, right? So if you want to be with this person, and if they've had bad behaviors, if they've done bad things, then you can't look at their potential anymore, okay? You have to assume they're always going to be person that they are, okay? So when an ex comes back, it's best to just leave them how they were. It's best to just reject them, or to do nothing. If they do something like add you, it's best to just do nothing. And if they do want to reconnect with you, to reject them, right? And to not get back with them, because it's not the best thing to do. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, you shouldn't get back with your ex. It's only if there was just a huge misunderstanding, right? So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.